1,700 euros a month. This is what my family of three currently spend living in Barcelona in 2026. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm Leticia from Coming to Spain, and the first thing that always comes up whenever I start conversation with people, it's always like, wow, Spain is so cheap. And yes, there's some aspects in where Spain is cheap and others where it's more expensive. So I really wanted to show you some real example by looking at my monthly expenses. Now, one thing to bear in mind, your expenses might differ from mine depending on your situation. Throughout the video, I'm going to be sharing some things that you should consider depending on whether you have kids, if you don't have kids, whether you're planning on having a car because that's a big expense, and also if you have pets. I'll be also sharing at the end of the video some of the two biggest expenses that contribute to my budget and that really surprised me. Okay, so let's start with the non-negotiable and well, the costs that usually don't change, right? So the biggest one is going to be your rent. When it comes to my rent, I'm currently paying around 1,100 euros a month. Full disclaimer, I live on the outskirts of Barcelona. Of course, if you're planning on living in the city center, let's say Gracia, Gotico, all these places, you definitely want to add a good 400, 500 euros on top of that because rentals have skyrocketed. And in my case, it's actually a 2-bedroom flat, 70 square meter, and it's pretty modern, so it's a pretty good price. But again, those type of prices don't really exist anymore. Now, let's look at the second one, daycare. It's a big thing. I've got a kid, so I put him in private daycare from Monday to Friday, and that's 550 euros a month. That includes also him eating there. Then we have the internet, that's 20 euros a month. My phone bills is 15 euros a month. I actually use a pay-as-you card. It's perfect for me, so I top it up at the beginning of the month and I usually never run out of credit. Then another one, which to me is a non-negotiable and I wasn't expecting, is an alarm. I'm paying actually 40 euros a month for an alarm in my flat just because there's a massive problem in Catalonia and especially in Barcelona with what they call ocupas. So it's a group of people, family, individual that can occupy your home and you're left with very little resources when this happens because there's so many cases happening out there. You can wait for years to try and kick them out. And I'm not willing to take that risk. So that brings the non-negotiable total to 1,725 euros a month. So that's nearly half budget, to be honest, and how my expenses go, and it probably also be yours again depending on if you have kids. Then let's talk about utilities. So here, let me break that down. So right now you definitely have to consider in mind gas bills. My monthly bills is 30 euros a month, electricity is 40 euros a month, water is 30 euros a month. So that's a total of roughly, and again it varies depending on winter, summer, you get me, but that's an estimate. So that's a total of 100 euros a month. And this is really where Spain delivers because I've lived in different parts of the world and usually this is a lot higher. So you get a lot more for your money. And one tip that I would mention is that it does get cold in Barcelona. And I think there's this idea that all year long Barcelona is warm. So if you're looking for a rental and there's no central heating, run away because it's really important. I mean, from say October, November, all the way to March, it's cold. It's on the colder side, and I have the heating on. So this is something you want to look out for when looking for a rental. Now, health insurance. This is a big one, and I know actually that in many people I've spoken to, especially people based in the US, the low price of health insurance is a reason why many people are actually moving to Spain. And when it comes to my number, they're not typical. I currently only pay 18 euros a month because I work for a Spanish company, so they subsidize my health insurance. So this 18 euros a month is for me and my son, but in total it should be around 50 a month, which is still pretty low because you get access to healthcare. I mean, I have my public health insurance and private healthcare. That's definitely one of the best things this country can offer to you. Now, before I get to the fun part, I wanted to share with you some of the things that I spend €0 on. And I used to actually spend quite a bit of money when I live in London and in different countries. So the first thing is a car. Barcelona is super well connected. I'm close to everything, so I really don't need a car. Having said that, I know that some of you might want a car or are thinking to live outside of Barcelona. So at the end of the video, I'll break down some of the consideration you need to have in mind if you're planning on having a car. Then what I'm not spending money on right now, Netflix, might surprise a few of you, but I've canceled that about 2 years ago when I had my first kid. I just had no time, to be honest. Like the little time I had, I wanted to use it to sleep or catch up with friends and family. And another one that I was a bit sad about, but I've managed to readjust my life around, it's my gym membership. I love going to the gym. Again, pre-baby, I was going every day, and then it just became more complicated. I used to pay €30 a month. I used to go to it's called Viva Gym, but it's not possible for me anymore. But the great part about Barcelona is that there's a lot of green space, so you can go running. For me, for example, I go running, and this has replaced my gym membership, and that comes at €0. So it definitely plus. Quick thing: if you're finding this video helpful so far, make sure to subscribe or leave a comment. And also, I have a quiz in the description section where you can check whether or not you're financially ready to move to Spain. It takes 2 minutes, and then you receive an email with your self-assessment. Now, the part that I really enjoy talking about and where I think Spain is super competitive, it's food, of course, where I currently spend €600 a month for a family of 3 again. And why am I calling it my guilty pleasure? Because in Spain, as opposed to any other country where I've lived in the past, I actually don't shop that much in the supermarket to get for example, my meat. I'll go to the butcher. To get the fruits and vegetables, I'll go to what's called here La Fruteria. So I will try and usually go to like specialized shop for grocery. And when it comes to whatever I want to eat, I don't really look at prices because to me, given the quality of the food and given how cheap it is compared to other countries, is definitely worth it. So that's around €600 a month. Then when it comes to going out, this is something that I do occasionally. When I moved to Spain in 2018, you could get to the city center and you could get what is called El Menú del Día. So you would have like a starter, main course, and dessert. You could get it for €11. And now I go to these places, the same place, and it's like 17, €18 a month. So that has gone up. Still affordable for many people coming from outside of Spain, but more expensive compared to a couple of years ago. And then other guilty pleasure, I like to buy clothes from time to time. Personal care, so I can spend around €50 a month, not that much, but I would add that in that bucket. And then my last one would be also about spa and like personal healthcare. I tend to spend maybe 100 to €150 for 2 hours, but to me it's definitely worth it. So I would put this in my guilty pleasure budget. Okay, so let's recap, right? Let me break down exactly how I spend those €2,700 a month. So in rent, I'm currently spending €1,100, daycare €550 a month, food around €600, guilty pleasure around €150, electricity €40, gas €30, water €30, alarm, big one, €40 a month, internet €20, AI tools and things like that €20, public transport €23, then activities for my kids, swimming classes and whatnot, around €23, health insurance, as I mentioned, this disclaimer, big part of my health insurance is subsidized by my company, so it's €18 for me and my kid, clothing, personal care around €50, my phone bills around €15, and I have a Spotify account, so that's €12. So in total, so that's about €2,701 a month. So that's my monthly expenses for a family of 3 living on the outskirts of Barcelona in a 2-bedroom flat. Currently don't have a car, no pets, 1 kid, and no Netflix and no debt. I know that your situation might not be the same as mine. So I've grouped 3 of the main situations that really most of my clients tend to fall under. So the first thing that you can have in mind if you don't have kids, okay? So if you don't have kids, you can get rid of the 550 euros a month that I've mentioned for daycare, of course, and then the activities for the kids, which I budgeted for 23 euros. So your total now drops to 2,128 euros a month. So that would be for a single person or couple to live comfortably in Barcelona. You can eat out from time to time and have a decent flat. Of course, like I mentioned, one thing that would change is depending on where in Barcelona you decide to live, because your rental, which usually account for half of everybody's expenses, will go up. Now, if you have a car, this is a big one, right? You definitely want to factor that in. So you have your insurance that can be roughly 35 euros a month. Then you've got the gas. This fluctuates a lot, as you know, but I've put between 100 and 150 euros a month, and it really depends on how often you're driving. Then you have something that is called ITV, so that's the Spanish mod. So that's around 40 to 50 euros monthly. It's kind of a technical test. And then also something that a lot of people do get in Barcelona, it's a parking, because you have a lot of flats that don't include parking. And also if you need to, well, drive around Barcelona, you might want to also consider that, because there's no longer that many free spaces. So that can be between 100 and 150 euros a month, depending on you. So that if you have a car, you would definitely want to add between 300 to 450 more a month to your budget. And if you don't have kids, that would bring your budget to 2,500 a month. And if you're a family with a car, that would be around 3K a month. So now a big one is for people planning on moving to Spain with pets. So you want to budget for your pet insurance, that's between 20 to 40 euros a month. Food for your pet could be 30 to 50 euros a month. Again, is approximate. Then vet cost is really hard to set aside, but usually between 30 and 50 euros a month. And it's also worth noting that many landlords are not super pleased or don't usually welcome pets, and you might need to pay an extra pet fee. So you can add roughly between 80 and 150 a month for having. Now, like I said to you at the beginning, I wanted to mention to you the 2 things that surprised me the most. The first one is definitely the monthly budget that I have to set aside for daycare for my kid, which to me is very expensive, especially given like the average salary in Spain and in Barcelona. It's true that you also get the option to put your kids in public daycare, but it doesn't have as much flexibility, and it just didn't work for me because of my schedule. And now that I have a second kid on the way, I am thinking that I'm going to have to pay nearly 1,100 euros a month for daycare. And sometimes that's someone's salary in Spain. This is something that I know can be a lot cheaper in other regions. And the second thing that surprised me a lot is when it comes to eating out. So like I mentioned, in 8 years since I've been living in Barcelona, prices have skyrocketed. It's insane. I feel like everything has gone up, and you can definitely tell that since 2020, you've got a lot of people coming to Barcelona, becoming a more and more popular place. You can tell that finding cheap, affordable places to eat is harder. Although I know that for many of you guys, it might not sound like a lot, but for someone who's been on the ground for a few years, I can tell the difference. When I look at myself and I'm thinking about the next maybe 10 years, and now that I have a second kid on the way and I'm looking for maybe more space, a bigger house, I definitely see myself potentially moving elsewhere and outside of Catalonia. You really want to look at all the different regions, see what works for you, and you also want to be prepared financially. This is one of the biggest parts. So you have that quiz that I created. So it's this financial quiz where I basically ask you a couple of questions just for you to make sure that you've considered some of the biggest financial hurdles when it comes to moving to Spain, so you can see if you're ready. And the good thing is, if you realize that you're not quite ready yet, You can also sign up for my 7-day free course. I will be educating you for the next 7 days on the main consideration you need to have before moving to Spain. So I hope this video was useful. Let me know if you want similar content or if you have questions in the comment section. Until next time, thank you for watching.